In the shadow of Colorado's rugged peaks, where ponderosa pines whisper secrets to the wind, Ezra Thornfield had built more than a home. He'd crafted a sanctuary. A timber-frame masterpiece with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed every sunrise, solar panels drinking sunlight, rainwater systems feeding a thriving garden of native wildflowers and heirloom tomatoes. He had poured 18 months of grief-fueled labor into it after losing his wife Sarah to cancer, and then his father, turning loss into something solid, something lasting. The wraparound deck overlooked valleys where eagles traced lazy circles, and every morning the scent of pine needles mingled with fresh coffee from a handmade ceramic mug. This was paradise, until it wasn't. While Ezra stood graveside, 40 meters from the plot where his father was being laid to rest, the low growl of diesel engines rolled up the mountain road. Cordelia Blackthorne, HOA president of Pine Ridge Estates, stood filming on her phone, a satisfied smirk on her face as a bulldozer's steel treads chewed through the custom stone fireplace Ezra and his father had built together, stone by painstaking stone. Ceramic tiles shattered under the blade. Handcrafted oak cabinets splintered like matchsticks. Vintage wine bottles, his father's retirement gift, were tossed aside like trash. The metallic screech of machinery against granite countertops mixed with the diesel exhaust and mountain air, turning Ezra's quiet grief into something colder, sharper, calculated rage. Cordelia had made one fatal mistake. She assumed the man whose dream home she was destroying was just another resident to bully. She didn't know he was a structural engineer who read legal documents the way most people read novels, for pleasure, for precision, for hidden weaknesses. The trouble had started small. A certified letter demanding $500 for unauthorized landscaping modifications. His crime: planting native wildflowers instead of the water-hungry Kentucky bluegrass the HOA demanded. Cordelia dismissed his appeal without reading the research he presented. Native plants cut water use by 60%, supported pollinators, actually raised property values. She doubled the fine to $1,000. Rules are rules, she said, eyes never leaving her iPad. Weeds are weeds. But Ezra noticed the pattern. Elderly neighbors fined hundreds for mailbox colors. Young families threatened with foreclosure over children's chalk drawings on driveways. A Vietnam veteran fined for parking his truck at the wrong angle. A young mother followed to grocery stores while Rex Grundy, Cordelia's golf cart riding enforcement officer, snapped photos of her children through car windows. This wasn't community governance. This was control dressed up as neighborhood standards. Engineers solve problems systematically. So Ezra began where every good investigation starts, the original documents. He pulled every covenant filed with the county clerk when Pine Ridge Estates was born in 1987. The paper felt heavier, official, real, unlike Cordelia's endless stream of made-up amendments. Buried in Section 12, he found language allowing decorative landscaping with seasonal plants for aesthetic enhancement. Wildflowers were seasonal. Vegetables were seasonal. Botanically and legally, tomatoes are fruits, and therefore plants. He showed up to the next board meeting armed with a Colorado State University wildlife biologist who testified that native gardens boosted property values 8 to 12% and supported the local ecosystem. Cordelia brought her hairdresser's boyfriend, who had once seen a documentary about raccoons. The room went quiet when the expert spoke. Neighbors, retired teachers, veterans, young parents began to nod. Something shifted. Cordelia retaliated. Twice weekly compliance checks at 6 in the morning. Rex measuring doormat placement to the inch, mailbox angles with 2 different tapes, Christmas lights duration down to the day. Violation notices arrived like clockwork. But Ezra documented everything. He photographed every property in the neighborhood. Selective enforcement was obvious. 3 other homes had identical light displays for the same duration, yet only his was cited. Mailboxes sat at the same angles elsewhere, yet only his drew fines. Neighbors started talking, quietly at first, then in a secret group chat called Pine Ridge Truth. Stories poured in. Harassment logs. Financial conflicts. Cordelia owned shares in a roofing company threatened by solar panels. Rex's brother-in-law ran a landscaping business that profited from water-intensive turf. Cordelia's own rental properties had unapproved rainwater systems identical to Ezra's, installed after her safety concerns rules. Then came the breakthrough. While mapping enforcement patterns, Ezra noticed a discrepancy between a 1987 subdivision plat and the current HOA boundaries. The original plat ended 200 feet before his property line. Millicent Hargrove, the retired teacher with a knack for archives, helped him dig. County records showed the HOA had quietly doubled in size in 1994. 12 votes in favor, 31 abstaining or unaware. No proper notice. No filing with the Secretary of State. Forged signatures. Required supermajority never met. 24 homes, including Ezra's, had never legally belonged to the HOA. 4 years of fees, fines, threats, harassment, all invalid. Hundreds of thousands of dollars illegally collected. Cordelia's real estate empire rested on fraudulent authority. They built a coalition. A property rights attorney took the case on contingency. Professional surveys confirmed the boundaries. Class action papers were drawn up. Quiet title actions filed. A petition for dissolution sent to the Secretary of State. Evidence mounted. Embezzlement records, forged documents, coordinated false complaints to inspectors, utility disconnection instructions. Cordelia's desperation peaked on Thanksgiving morning. While Ezra was at his father's graveside, bulldozers arrived under an emergency powers clause she had no legal right to invoke. No permits. No engineering report. Just a $23,000 check from her personal account. Dalton Rivers and 3 veterans blocked the machines with pickup trucks and American flags. Police arrived to find no valid authority. Phones captured everything. The story exploded. Media descended. Denver Post headlines screamed about an HOA attempting to demolish a home during a funeral. National property rights groups offered support. Cordelia tried to flee. Abandoned Tesla at the airport, flight to Phoenix. Federal fugitive charges followed. Rex cooperated, detailing years of orchestrated harassment. Maintenance workers came forward with emails proving conspiracy. The county commissioner's hearing room overflowed. Survey maps towered on screens. Financial trails showed $340,000 siphoned illegally. Rex's confession was read aloud. Cordelia, representing herself after 3 lawyers withdrew, watched her empire collapse. Commission votet unanimo, dison ven. All covenants null. Full refunds plus damages. Criminal charges filed. 6 months later, Pine Ridge was unrecognizable in the best way. Property values climbed 15%. Families moved in specifically because there was no HOA. Monthly potlucks rotated between homes. A community tool library replaced the old enforcement office. Veterans cleared snow for elderly neighbors. Ezra's garden became a living classroom for sustainable landscaping. Children's laughter echoed where violation notices once ruled. Cordelia received 18 months in federal prison for mail fraud, restitution orders, and permanent bans from real estate and HOA leadership. Rex served 6 months, then spent community service repairing trails and making amends. The mountain air felt cleaner, the pines taller, the sun rises brighter. Ezra still sips coffee from that same handmade mug on the deck each morning. Eagles still circle. But now the neighborhood isn't governed by fear. It's held together by choice. Neighbors help neighbors. Gardens grow freely. Structures, both physical and social, are built on solid foundations. And somewhere in the comments below, someone is typing their own HOA nightmare, hoping for the same kind of ending. Because sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's simply exposing the truth and watching a fraudulent empire fall under the weight of its own lies.